Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Scratching Post with Sketch. That's Gaming Itch. It is once again I back here at the channel at the Scratching Post, and we are here for another episode of the Condensed Podcast. Yes, for those who don't know, the Condensed Podcast is where I gather three of my good buddies together, and we all have a nice old natter about the gaming industry and various topics that are going on. So I want to welcome everyone, and I want to welcome my co-hosts. First of all, regular co-host down below is Shadow.
Hello.
Living.
Howdy, everybody!
And one of our two guest roles that rotates in and out between Doctor and this man, Burr.
How do you do, fellow teens?
You are the oldest man here.
Well, I'll be turning another year older in 2 days' time, so... yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of stopped... It stops being a thing once you hit 30 and just like, just another year around the sun.
Yeah, I must admit, as soon as I passed 21 and I hit 22, it was just like, oh, is this how it's just going to be now? It's just going to be the number going up?
Yeah.
Yep. No pomp and circumstance, just tick, and there you go. Hello, everyone.
I
So,
like to think of it as leveling up.
I mean, that's a positive way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keeps me going.
I roll a d6 and gain a new pain in one of my joints.
Damn.
Too real.
I think
Way
that-
too real.
Yeah. Yeah, why can't it be like real life where we level up and we actually gain like a new skill or a talent or something?
Oh my god, like in D&D, basically we get to add to our attributes. That would be nice. We'll gain a new feat.
Be nice.
It's your birthday. What do you want to put? What feat do you want? Here's a list.
I want to be a beautiful.
Every time you get like a special book through the doorway every birthday, you're like,
Oh my god, yes.
Or maybe the other way around. It would be nice to have a RPG system where it behaves a bit more like actual aging. Like when you're a teenager to young adult, you level up very quickly, and then when you pass like 40 or 50, you de-level.
No. I want all the benefits and none of the downsides.
I want zero realism.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah.
isn't that most RPG systems where a lot of the cool stuff you get early, and then as things go along, it starts to become a bit more leveling up to become something that just happens, and you just doesn't really have much of an impact. Bar you get.
Please don't remind me of RuneScape.
I mean,
Although, in fairness, all the cool stuff in RuneScape is at the back end of the leveling system, but it takes you fucking forever because it's a grind.
Well.
you
Well,
are
that, that
You
being
are
said,
right.
I am currently very addicted to lit RPG books. So
I've been reading one hell of a lot of RPG books lately, actually.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Condensed Podcast, where we comment densely upon the topics of the month. Today, we've got a very, very special topic which we're going to go on, which you've kind of touched on in the beginning of the episode. Tabletop games and board games will be the order of the day, which is what we'll be discussing towards as a part of our main event topic. But first of all, we have, of course, the news. Very kindly compiled by one Shadow Phoenix Ms. Ryder, perhaps to the detriment of her mental health.
Started making it, had a breakdown, bon appetit.
So let's get on with the news in May 2022 so we can talk about the good stuff. So, first of all, Activision Blizzard in the news again. Urges shareholders to vote against the New York State Common Retirement Fund's proposed annual abuse report, citing an annual public report describing and quantifying the effectiveness and outcomes of company efforts to prevent abuse, harassment, and discriminations against protected class employees. They believe they do not need an annual report, which is convenient because the annual report would potentially outline any problems within the, would be done by a third party, would outline any problems within them, which of course they don't need people to tell them what's wrong. They know what's wrong, don't they, Shadow?
Yeah,
course.
like it's not like Paradox kind of let this happen and was like, oh shit, yeah, there's been some shit going on. We should probably do something about that.
Yeah, so Yeah, and I keep hating the fact that we're in the world where the shareholders are in control. It's like, these guys have probably never made a fucking game in their life, or even played a game in their life.
Making game by committee, ladies and gentlemen. Make the game you want to play.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
it's the
People
world we
will
live
play
in.
it.
Well,
Unfortunately, yeah, it's all.
they
to do with
actually don't
focus
even want
groups
to make games. They just want to
I
earn
want to
money
watch the
on
line
games.
go up.
Yes, they just want to make money on games. If they could do that without making games, they would not do any games. So.
They're playing the ultimate game. See the number go up.
I've been watching some of Matt McMuscle's fantastic Wahapa series on YouTube. It's really interesting.
Really, really good. Like, really dig in. They really dig into like the behind the scenes stuff. I really liked his Duke Nukem Forever one. Actually, I didn't realize like how many times they just kept changing the engines and stuff like that.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, holy shit! No wonder it went into dev hell.
He's got.
Yep.
I actually put on while I was doing some RPG planning in the background his Capcom video, which basically compiles all the Capcom based ones he's done, which is like 6 hours long. Because Capcom in their infinite wisdom have made a lot of good decisions, but they've also made some pretty bad ones in the past as well. And one I always remember them talking about is how actual developers who worked on it, these at a quote for an actual developer when talking about the production of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, the game that got support for 5 months and was pretty much abandoned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the game that had those wonderful plastic stones for collector's edition.
Yeah. We don't know what the budget figures were for it, but apparently, according to an actual employee who worked at it, the budget was declared by them to be cheap as shit.
I mean, I don't know whether you've played Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
I haven't had the pleasure, if I'm honest. I don't know. I played the demo.
Edition, I bailed.
Because I did play that. I sort of rented the DVD with the game for PS4, and it was pretty shitty.
I've played a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate. Very good game.
Oh, yeah.
Great game. And unfortunately, they were in an unfortunate position where the developers were kind of having a situation like, well, why can't we have these characters? Why can't we have these characters? And they can't say because Marvel said we couldn't use them, because at that time the Fantastic Four and the X-Men weren't being utilized by Marvel for reasons, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean they were part of Marvel Comics. They weren't part of
No. They weren't even part of Marvel Comics at that point. Oh. They had stopped publishing X-Men and Fantastic Four at this point.
Oh, damn.
They were effectively devaluing the products of those lines for reasons. I don't think you need.
Despite Fox, okay. Yes.
And of course, Fox then crumbled and they gained them back anyway. But yeah, and so they were an unfortunate position where they're like, well, we can't blame Marvel, and we have to be diplomatic, which is like, oh, we see characters as mechanics, and this character does very simple. People like Magneto because he could do this. Well, this character could do that. The same thing. It's like, oh dear me. Plus, they literally took Dante. They took models of characters from Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and ported them in to Infinite. That's why Dante's model looks pretty awful.
Because it's an old model.
Thus, I quote, cheap as shit. Anyway, back.
Devs can make, good games on cheap as shit budgets. It's called Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
I mean, yeah, that is a good way of asset spinning.
Yeah. I have nothing against reusing assets.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just think that if you compare the art style of the new characters compared to the old characters that were ported in, there is a very distinct difference between them. And that's the problem, is that the same love and attention wasn't given to the older characters that were ported in because they already had a model as there were the new characters, and that's a problem. But then we're getting off topic here. So we talked about Activision Blizzard, and I then went about Muscles, and and of course you can find a link to his channel in the stream chat. Thank you very much for that, Shadow.
You're welcome.
Activision. We're not going to let Activision off the hook right now because we have some more news for them. New York City sues Activision again targeting Bobby Kotick, specifically, alleging that he rushed the takeover bid from Microsoft to escape liability for misconduct at the company.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But it
Yeah.
seems a bit coincidental.
We'll put an allegedly disclaimer over it while I go ahead and say, fucking good.
That is a lot of coincidental allegations at the same time.
Legally, we have to say allegedly, even though if you read between the lines, allegedly could be one of the words that you on the lines that you don't read.
I mean, I'll just say it to Bobby Kotick, read between the fucking lines.
He said that, not I.
Yeah, I'm saying that. Read between
I
the
wrote
fucking
allegedly
lines.
in this.
By the way, and also, Shadow was very kind to point out exactly what Activision Blizzard is currently facing. They are currently facing 8 lawsuits of Microsoft merger, though 4 have been dismissed, 4 shareholder lawsuits, although they're consolidated into 2 220 complaints, including one from New York City, 1 US Securities and Exchange Commission investigation, 1 purported class action lawsuit, or class action suit, I should say, 1 discrimination suit in California, 1 federal harassment suit was the settlers facing appeals, and insider trading inquiries to the SEC and Department of Justice, and a partridge in a pear tree.
I was so tempted to sort of sing all of those ones.
Yeah,
By the way,
Partridge in a pear tree.
that's 13 active ones, not including those that have been dismissed or consolidated.
I was going to make the partridge joke as well, and I mean it's clear there's one brain cell amongst
Activision Blizzard. You know the days of gaming high scores are over, right? You don't need to prove this.
Yeah, just calm down, champ.
It's 13 cases.
Activision Blizzard King decided the best way to distract from this was to crow from the rooftops about their new diversity tool, which was essentially a breakdown character traits such as race, sexuality, etc. into numbers, and big numbers meant more diverse. Even though that's not how it's supposed to work.
That's what we call tokenism.
And as suspected, the internet decided to dunk on this quite appropriately.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, go on, Lemmy.
I was just saying, dunked on quite rightfully.
Yes, indeed. And it was also to the consternation of their own employees who didn't use the tools to make their characters, because, as Overwatch character artist Melissa Kelly pointed out, our writers have eyes. The artists have eyes. Producers, directors, etc., as far as I know, also have eyes. And then she said, in something that all of us who are a little bit of a fan of Blizzard properties can say, God, I swear our company, quote, God, I swear our own company tries so hard to slaughter any goodwill the actual devs who have made the game have built.
And that's the sad point, is because a lot of this is all stuff that happens at the executive level, but the people who brought the brunt of it are the developers.
Yeah. Apparently they are using this for the next Call of Duty game. I think it's the Call of Duty Vanguard or something.
But
What?
How? But who?
It's... I tried to understand it by reading the article about it, and even I couldn't really get it. But you've played Overwatch, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know Ana, the Egyptian sniper.
Yeah.
She scores highly because of her age and her ethnicity and her gender and stuff like that. But she scores less in other categories. But it's fine because she's old. She's an old Egyptian lady.
Yeah, she has high diversity score. It's like they discuss it on the meetings, like next point of the meeting, and she scores high on this side, but she's not gay enough. Tell the writers to turn the gay a bit more.
Yeah, so if we were going to score ourselves, I score highly because I'm a woman and also bisexual, but kind of score lowly because I'm also cis and white and
Yeah.
Am I the only one looking at this thing and going, are they basically turning tokenism into a series of graphs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
effectively, that's what they've done.
Literally
Yes.
are. They
Yeah.
literally are. It's diversity by numbers, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
Yeah.
and it's just like, no, guys, no.
Yeah,
I mean,
that-
I see where I see what they were trying to do. I see like the good intention here, but it's just like, no,
Yeah,
no.
there's good intentions.
yeah,
There's good
that's-
intentions,
yeah.
but it's still whack as fuck.
Yeah, it
That's
is
not-
super
yes.
whack. Also, just for the same game, Overwatch. How does Winston, which is a monkey from the moon, scientist from the moon, how does he score on that
I
diversity?
don't know.
How-
I don't know. But also the hamster apparently scores pretty highly on there
Yeah.
because he's a hamster.
A hamster.
hamster.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a hamster. There are at least
don't-
there are 3 robots. So does the Bastion, which is unspecified ethnicity robots, score lower or the same as Orisa, which is clearly an
I don't-
African robot?
Someone consult the AIs of the world that they feel represented in video games.
Do we have to ask Legion their gender? You know.
Yeah.
Do AI even have a concept of gender?
Does this unit have a soul?
De-
That-
depe-
I'm not
depending
gonna
on the
jump on
AI,
you.
because
Good.
we have like very low consciousness robots like Bastion. We have mid consciousness like the human level consciousness robots like Orisa, and we have high level consciousness robots like Xenia. How do they this tool is crazy and weird, and I can understand how the boards of directors might be hyped about it, but it's such a stupid idea to like sing praises about it to the internet. Internet just
Yeah, it's
It was such a stupid
Yeah.
timing as well.
it
'cause they
was.
Yeah, because they had this. They had the lawsuit come out again, and they
Yeah.
basically went, "Hey guys, we're improving our diversity," and it was like, I don't know. It's like trying to do like they fell down the stairs like trying to carry a wedding cake or something, and it's just like, but it
But-
turned out the wedding cake was for the bees. It's just like what?
Also, my favorite sort of cake.
Bees.
And now this next news article dropped pretty much as we finished last time. And it was such a shame because it was a glorious Schadenfreude moment. After we've dunked on NFTs, the wider gaming community have dunked on NFTs, Square Enix decided we're all in on NFTs, and decided, because we did a comic cover last time, that Square Enix are basically selling off a lot of their IPs, like Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, to
Thief, Legacy of Kain.
Legacy of Kain, to what was the group called, Shadow?
The Embracer
Group.
The Embracer Group. In a plot twist, the NFT market crumbles and collapses.
Oh no! Who could possibly have predicted this?
Yeah, it's how's that working out for you, Square Enix?
Yes.
I mean, you've got Final Fantasy still, so
On the,
Yeah.
I mean, on the sort of surprising take, I think they might come out, both Square Enix and those titles might come out good on it, because Square Enix clearly didn't want to do anything with
No.
those titles,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
because they are sort of
oh, I'm not complaining this is a bad thing. It's just that
yeah,
in their infinite arrogance,
It's just
shall we say, it's
Yeah.
funny. It's
So
just funny.
funny.
It's just,
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they could have done it without saying that. Yeah, we want to do this because we need money for an NFT. That was the most stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
If they just sold it saying, no, we don't have any interest in those franchises anymore, so we sell them to someone who might, and they can focus on the ones that they really want to focus, which
Yeah.
is all the JRPGs, the Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, the Tales of, etc. All those that are really great selling at the domestic market, because that's what they seem to be focusing for quite a while now.
yeah, that Konami.
Yeah, exactly.
Square Enix later said it would establish and or acquire new game studios to make up for the old ones they foolishly sold off, chasing rumors of money trees that fart pixie dust. I love the way you put that, Shadow, so eloquently in this. The field of which I grow my sympathy the field of which I grow my sympathy is barren, but the derision crop is beautiful this month. Poetry.
You can clearly tell who is the writer of the forum.
Behold the field with which I grow my fox. You will see that it is desert and barren.
For I have no more fucks to give.
To give.
In better news, the Embracer groups.
It took me a long time to write that because I was going through so many stuff and I just thought, you know what, just keep it simple.
In better news, the Embracer Group's earning report mentions that they see a great potential not only in sequels but also remakes, remasters, spin-offs, as well as transmedia projects across the group. You might actually get to see a new Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and Tomb Raider games in the future.
That is
yes.
This kind of thing. And the thing is, like, we have a friend in our circles called Chloe, and she's kind of like on the edge of video game making. I think she does like modding and stuff like that, and a couple of game jams. And she's not really heard much from the Embracer group, but they seem to have an air of just letting their subsidiaries do what they want.
They also have an archive. They keep a gaming archive as well, which is great news for preservation aspects. And yeah, these titles, Deus Ex, great series. Unfortunately, I would say it has been mishandled under Square Enix. Thief,
especially the second Human Revolution.
Yeah. I mean, it's been mishandled twice with the Human Revolution and with Mankind Divided. They're both not so great as games.
A Thief game, I can't really comment. I've got the last one, but not already played much of it. Legacy of Kain, we've not seen a Legacy of Kain game since Defiance, and there was the Forbidden Sun, I think it was what it's called, like concept demo, which looked really interesting, but they abandoned that. And of course, we've had no Tomb Raider game since Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I actually peg as I think one of the weakest in the latest trilogy entries. But we'll see. I'm very interested to see where it goes.
It would be nice to see. Sorry, Bert, go ahead.
No, you go, because I actually have a question for Eba, but you go first.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we might see a remaster of the Legacy of Kain series.
That would be very nice, actually. Yeah,
that would be very. I mean, everybody's doing remasters at the moment. It would be rude not to, especially now they have archives.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, Eba. You're a big fan of Legacy of Kain series. Would you rather see a remaster, or would you rather see a reboot or a soft reboot?
I think if you're talking a remake, I think you can't remaster it. They're very early 2000s action gaming. They have, with warts and all. Whereas our gaming sensibilities have evolved since then. So I think if you were to do it, you'd have to make it as a remake or a reimagining of the series, which is going to tick some people off. But to be fair, if you actually look into the first Legacy of Kain game was very different from how it became. The later games became. It was more of a top-down RPG. Then of course Soul Reaver was a third-person action adventure. Then Blood Omen was a third-person hack and slash. And Defiance ended up becoming very much like God of War. I could see it becoming almost like a God of War-esque style game, if you were to reimagine it. And there was so much cut from the first game from Soul Reaver as well, that you could very easily go back and introduce a lot of things. But the thing is, the storyline between that is so interesting. I would love to see them reimagine that storyline in many ways. And of course Tomb Raider. I'm a big fan of Tomb Raider, so yeah.
It's just good news. I mean, if they just let the studios just do their thing, then I'm all for it. I mean, I'd like to see how it goes.
Yeah, the Embracer Group does have a lot of good studios that could do that.
They have Gearbox.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. Very few people knew that they had Gearbox until they sort of like stepped out the shadows, and they were like, "Wait, what the fuck?"
What? Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, if you don't know the Embracer Group owns Gearbox, because Gearbox seem to just be doing their own thing and be happy
Because
for it,
I
then
thought-
that's a good sign.
I always assumed they were owned by 2K, but they're not. They're published by 2K.
Yeah.
Published, and any developer can use a publisher, technically speaking. So yeah. The Dead Space remake has a release date of the 27th of January 2023. That's a new concept art with promises of a full reveal this Halloween. Looks good, and look forward to terrifying Jesse Cox again. I have to admit, I am interested in the Dead Space remake. It's alright, Doctor. The one thing I'm curious about is, because I saw this on What Happened Again, is the problem with Dead Space 3.
Yes.
The whole problem with Dead Space 3 is, okay, we need to want to appeal to people who are not horror fans. Isn't that kind of the point?
Yeah, no. Dead Space was a very niche. Was in a very niche sort of horror. Like horror is by its definition a niche genre, and Dead Space itself was a niche thing in that genre. So, and EA was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have this appeal to loads of people." It's like, no, that's not how this works.
If you set out to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one.
To none.
Yeah,
that's like what happened with the Warcraft movie.
Yeah.
But
I think they did learn that Dead Space 3 lesson, because I think they did understand that when they started making it appeal to everyone, it just flopped.
Yeah, and they shoved shoved like crafting into it like really hard, and it was just like no.
And broken DLC weapons and
I will be interested to see how it goes, actually, because there is a bit of a departure between Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2, because Dead Space 2 leans more into an action kind of style, and I wonder if people prefer Dead Space 2 over 1. It will just be interesting to see how it pans out, kind of thing. I will not be playing it, but I will be watching people play it, because fuck that game. That game gave me nightmares.
Same, yep.
Yeah, I've never played 2, but I've played 1. It gave me nightmares. I was terrified of Necromorphs for a very long time. I want to play that again.
I had a bad enough time with Poppy Playtime. I'm not going into Dead Space.
I mean, now that I've kind of wet my whistle into horror with the Resident Evil series, I might give Dead Space a try when it comes out.
Yeah, I think
it has jump scares, I know.
It's a bit more than jump scares. I think the first one especially might be just teetering on the edge for you, but it's up to you.
You will have friends on a voice chat with you. But
if you want.
You do have the best weapons of any horror ever, forever, which is the plasma cutter.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and you can stomp.
Yes, I know about that.
The best thing,
speaking of Dead Space, which is of course a property of with EA, EA has decided after consuming and digesting many other game devs that it would like to sell or merge with another company. This is disquieting considering how consolidated the video game industry is becoming, as well as other markets. The disquiet has been echoed by Microsoft's Phil Spencer, who is concerned about big tech companies, or even just big companies unfamiliar with the gaming industry, barging into the space as opposed to an experienced division coming in competition against Nintendo and Sony. Whilst I just trust the altruistic spin, his concerns are not unfounded after Amazon's numerous disasters with video games like New World. And yes, I completely agree. Phil's gone on record as saying that the reason they hoovered up Activision Blizzard is because they didn't want Amazon or Apple or anyone like that stepping in. And EA is not a small company.
Yeah,
it's not small. It's got a lot of IPs under its wings.
It's not. That's it. It's not a company. It's a corporation.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a company that owns companies.
But it's my concern is Amazon coming in and Apple coming in, and they have no idea how to run a game business.
Yeah,
all they know is how to sell stuff, and that's That's great from a company point of view. It sucks from a consumer perspective.
Yeah.
We're already at a phase where we as consumers are tired of what the gaming industry is offering us, and I think it's just going to push over the edge.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Lemming.
No, I was just agreeing.
Yeah,
Keep going.
I was going to say, remember that the established companies like Nintendo, Sony, etc., have been in this space and learned all the lessons over years.
Yeah.
Amazon is coming in from like day one, and they're having to learn all of the mistakes and the problems and the things that they have to do, like from a standing start right now.
And
like to explain to like taking like New World is their big online MMO, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, gentlemen, if you're going to make a big change to an MMO, an online experience, would you have a would you think to maybe have a server, maybe a test realm where the public can join on and test these changes before they go live?
It's a lot of money, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Amazon
if
did
we can
not have
justify
that
the
for
cost.
New World. They
Yeah.
would apply changes without testing them. And that also meant that you had interesting bugs like the ability to, if you were in combat, if you took the window that New World was playing on and moved it around on your desktop, you would be invincible. You would sustain no damage at all while the window was moving around until you stopped it, at which point all the damage would be applied at once. But it didn't matter because there were also some bugs which meant if you had a heal over time, and you were standing in its area, if you crouched, you kept constantly crouching, you would speed up the heal, so you would also become invincible and stuff like that. These these weren't tested.
Yeah.
You would have thought that the Amazon, a massive company that has brought itself into billion-dollar status over the past couple of decades, would know to maybe get some people with experience in development and testing.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is I don't trust, because Amazon out there as a company to me right now is like, our whole business is we sell you shit. And yes, at the end of the day, you are selling a product, you're selling a game, but there's more to it than just simply selling us the product and then fucking off. It's...
But they don't look at it like that. They just want to diversify the points of profit, which is we want to get into that game business that all the kids are talking about. And they don't care about anything else.
And the fact that New World is designed as an MMO, a game that you want people coming back to, that you want people to keep playing, to play it as for a long time.
Is that ironic?
That's very difficult.
No end game. Yeah, it had that, and the fact that I am part of two communities who the head of that community, both communities went, I want to play this. This is a cool new game. I'm into this. And then a month later, it was like, there's no content.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what that is, though? Because New World was originally going to be one of these MMO, like hardcore PvP kind of.
Oh god!
If people murder you, they can steal all of your stuff. Kind of stuff.
The combat isn't numbers based; it's skill based.
Yeah. Problem with that, people don't like that.
No.
It turns out the reason why WoW is so successful for the casuals is because it appeals to the casual market, and it turns out that people don't like just turning up into an MMO and getting all their stuff stolen.
That or just getting ruffle stomped by somebody.
So Amazon was like, shit, we need to change it so we can appeal to the masses. So they changed to a PvE kind of style, but it turns out like making quest areas and PvE content is like really, really hard and takes a long time and a lot of balancing. And
the fact that the
Amazon doesn't have time at all to make those mistakes. They want to have money now, so they will do whatever. And
it also doesn't help that their core player base that they'd actually like crafted with this game wanted the PvP.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. That is the problem.
I'm going to be a bit weird here and a bit contrary, and I actually think there's one company I can think of that, to me, I wouldn't mind stepping in and buying EA.
Disney.
Who?
Disney.
Yeah.
they've had experience with having a gaming division before.
I mean,
They know how to run a multimedia empire.
Yeah, I
know.
just
Mm.
because they're so big.
Monopoly,
That's my
I'm
main
hesitant
concern.
to give Disney even more power over our entertainment.
Well, the problem is the environment in the sort of U.S. market does already allow all that. Those antitrust tests that they have, those all the policies, they don't really prevent that very well. So it's still not a monopoly. It's not even a duopoly, but it's already very, very consolidated.
We'll have to see how things develop.
All I know is I don't want Apple or Amazon owning it.
Let's look at pure tech companies that are trying to split into the video games like space. Amazon, New World isn't working out.
Yeah, and
nobody's playing it right now because
there was all
fiddled with it.
Yeah, and also there was a game, I think it was like Firefall or something, that they released into beta. Like they released and then they unreleased it a couple of weeks earlier because it was fucking broken.
Yeah. And idea number 2, Google.
Yeah,
Google.
Stadia just horribly flopped.
How's that working out for you?
The Stadia, it was a great idea. How'd that work out?
Yeah, exactly.
It just sucks.
Did it?
No one uses it. No one wants it.
No.
KFC wanted to have their own console. That was a great idea.
I mean, it had a chicken cooker in it.
I'd back the Colonel on that one.
I'd buy that for $1.
KFC are already a verified games publisher. They've got one game out there.
Oh yeah, that dating sim. Yeah.
Best thing ever. I will say, I props to Devolver Digital's tweet about EA doing this, which is, I think their tweet was on the lines of, I'd hate to be the company who buys EA then realizes that they have to acquire other developers through microtransactions. Yes, brilliant.
Have a full package.
The tweet is, someone's going to buy EA, then find out there's like 10 more small purchase after you own it to get all the content.
So long as Devolver continues to be run by snarky bastards who are just as bored with the gaming industry as we are,
they'll get my money.
Will continue to buy their games.
We stand one company and it's Devolver.
The one company to release a decent NFT.
Yeah.
Moving on, my favorite company's one of my favorite companies is getting a bit of a fire thrown at them, and rightfully so. The gender discrimination lawsuit against PlayStation is returned after it was dismissed by a judge for not being specific enough. The revised lawsuit now has a narrower scope, no longer national, and collects the allegations of women of being passed up for promotions as men in the same department advance, unequal pay, retaliation, dismissive comments about women's abilities, and a Deloitte study DELOITTE. There you go, I spelled it. Study that is said to have found that Sony had a very low percentage of women in management positions compared to peers. Rightfully so. They need to get their shit together.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought it was another because I saw a couple of commentaries about this, and people thought it was another gender discrimination lawsuit or that the same person had done it again, but it's the same one. It's just went out because the judge said it was very unspecific. It didn't really have it was trying to do everybody who worked under every woman who worked under Sony in the US, and the judge said that's a bit too much for the broad allegations that you're having.
Yeah, the allegations are too broad.
Yeah, so she's made it more specific about working in California between these dates for certain dates.
Update. Deloitte, I believe that's the pronunciation, is actually a company.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, they're a multinational auditing company.
Makes sense.
They who did the study.
We can't escape them. Activision Blizz have determined to have illegally threatened its staff members and violated employees' workers' rights by telling them they cannot talk about or communicate about wages, hours, or working conditions, according to National Labour Relations Board. That would explain a lot.
Yeah, one of the few pro-worker rules in the United States is you are allowed to talk about your wages.
Yes.
You cannot be barred from doing so.
I wish my parents would fucking learn that. It's just like, let us talk about. It's like, it's very rude
No,
to
you can't talk about how much you earn.
Yeah, it's like,
Fuck
it's
off.
very rude to talk about how much you earn. I'm like, yeah, if you earn like a shit ton of money, I can understand if you're being a twat about it. I can understand when that's a bit rude, but like, you know that employers tell you not to talk about their wages so they can shaft you, right?
Yeah, it's like, I'm making a certain wage, and Tony, who does the exact same job as me, earns twice as much. I want to fucking know about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, if I want to know if I'm on the same pay band as my male co-workers, if I'm getting paid less than they are, excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that's blatant discrimination, and there are
Yes.
laws about that shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's not to say that my company's doing that. I'm just
No. We're just an example. We're going to end with some good news, though. Good news. Testers at Raven Software have voted to form the US video game industry's first major union. There was some pushback against it because there was some people who believed that 20 people, there's 200 employees, 20 people shouldn't, dictate the direction of Raven Software, and to which I believe someone responded, yes. So I guess 8 board members would be the best people to.
Jesse.
Jesse Cox said, yeah. So I guess 8 board members should be the people who determine the direction of the company. Then should it?
If how many people joined? Did you say 20?
20. I think it's 20
out of 200. Well, if you don't want 20 people out of 200 telling you how to run a company, maybe join them.
Yeah, exactly.
200 people out of 200 in the company.
I was a union man.
Definitely have good control of a company.
I was a union man when I was in Primark because basically someone to stick up for the workers.
I've been a union man for every company I've been in that had a union. Unfortunately, the one I'm in now doesn't.
Yeah, same.
I probably need to join my union at some point, but I'm not currently in the position to do that at the moment.
Best thing about Miles O'Brien in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, he was a union man. And that's the news. And that is the news that we covered for this week.
Yes. I kept it short because, like, fucking hell.
So that means we can move on to our main topic of the week, which is it's not just board games. It is going to be tabletop games.
Woo! Get on board, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, there's a very good reason why we're talking about this, and that is because 2 days from now, on the 2nd of June, all but one of us, Lemming won't be joining us, but Doctor, who's in the chat, who's our other guest host, will be, along with myself, Bert, and Shadow, will be going on to UK Games Expo, along with Weird FGW and a lot of our friends. It's my first time going. I've been a very big fan of board games. I worked in a board game store for 2 years. So
living the dream.
Oh, that was it. As their event manager, I didn't even stock shelves. I had an office where I would plan events and it was glorious. It was. I took a pay cut when I went from Primark to that job doing it. I only worked 14 hours a week, and I got 500 quid a month. But fuck, it was the best job ever. Yeah.
That does sound great.
As Doctor says, yeah, but eBack's pay packet was screaming. Yes. I have to admit, yeah. I mean, even though, because I was working in the store, I would basically buy stuff from the store. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go through our history, tabletop-wise. Presumably we all did it when we were younger, but of course, naturally, as you go on, you might fall off, and then you might regain into it at some point. My introduction was, I used to game when I was younger and such, or snakes and ladders and all that lark. But I kind of stopped doing that when I was board gaming, and sorry, when I was video gaming. And then, of course, I went to university. It wasn't until I rekindled with my old friend, Mr. Turner, that I got pulled back into the board game world. And then that led me to discover Tabletop, the show Tabletop, that is, run by Will Beaton. Fantastic show. Which I watched religiously, and yeah, that's basically how I then got back into board gaming, and that led me into X-Wing and Star Trek Attack Wing and Armada and all sorts of miniatures games into the world we are now. Burr, your history.
Yeah. Okay. So initially, I had access to board games as reduced as it was reduced for most people in Poland for access in the 80s and early 90s to board games. There weren't many that would be published and that would be imported. There was some. I was able to play some version of Monopoly. I was introduced as a sort of 9-year-old kid to Talisman. It was my jam. It was my absolute jam. I loved that game. And then I sort of not been playing board games for a long time. And then when I started working, some of my friends were playing all kinds of board games. So I was introduced to Catan, to Ticket to Ride, to kind of more modern Euro board games. And I also started watching quite religiously Tabletop with Will Wheaton. That's like you did. And then I got into really bad company because they introduced me to more heavier and heavier, longer lasting board games. And now we're playing games like Mage Knight or Gloomhaven or
Or even worse.
Yeah, the sort of games that you start at like 5 p.m. and end around 11 a.m.
Like that cursed long-term board game Monopoly.
Oh,
Actually, I had a question about that, but a potentially sensitive question, because of course you grew up behind the Iron Curtain. Did you play like a version of Monopoly behind there? Was there a version of Monopoly?
Well, that was already kind of after the Iron Curtain fell, because that was like either 1990 or 91 game. It was a bootleg Monopoly version.
Yeah, of course.
Called Euro Business. It was like the whole like places in European cities instead of like places in London, like
which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was in all but the sort of flavor, the skin, it was a Monopoly. But I also we've had quite a few bootlegs. There was a game called Vampire that I really want to find out because it's absolutely hard to get, which was the Polish sort of bootleg of Fury of Dracula.
I want to play. Fury of Dracula's on my list to check out when we're at the Games Expo. I've always wanted to own a copy of Fury of Dracula, never have got it, and so I'm going to be having my eye out for a copy of that when I'm there.
It's an amazing game.
Great game.
That I had was simplified compared to Fury of Dracula, but it was still amazing.
I'm not going to lie. I want to sit down and play Fury of Dracula, and I want to point at Scarf and say, "You're playing Dracula." Lemming, yours is probably a bit of a different history compared to Tabletop games, so why don't you go for yours?
Yeah, I've actually never went down the route of the Will Wheaton chronology. I started at a very young age with Uno, believe it or not. At a ripe young age, I would be at my grandmother's on a Saturday evening, on Sunday morning for the night. Let my parents have a Saturday evening to themselves. Most weekends, I'd be at my grandmother's house, and there was very little to do other than watch the 3 TV channels we had and play Uno. So we played Uno, and that was a card, and noughts and crosses and Snakes and Ladders. That's the other one, and that kindled a love of board games within me. So yeah, simple tabletop games, don't need anything special. And from then, my father was always into scale model making, so it kind of became an obvious move. I was building Airfix kits and stuff, and then a friend of mine at my Air Cadet Squadron was also into Warhammer, and he was building his models in the. I was like, what are those? That looks cool. So I swapped over to that and started Warhammer 40,000.
Hey.
Yeah.
which I still have at least one army of in a case somewhere back there. I've stopped playing it since then because it's bloody expensive.
And
I'd love to.
It's
Go on, Bear.
sorry. I just wanted to make the joke like you don't have to worry about your kids doing drugs. Just introduce them to Warhammer 40k. They will never have money for drugs.
Or time.
Entirely accurate. Entirely accurate. I spent hundreds of pounds just making small armies.
Yeah, what army have you got in there, Lemming?
Back there, I have a little small, what's left of a Chaos army that I have from a while ago, and a very small Grey Knights army. I used to have a vast Imperial Guard army, but I sold that to a nice lad from Nottingham a few years ago.
Fair enough.
I'd love to pick your brains because I've always wanted to kind of enter into the more hobby area of that, but always been put off because I suck at painting. But I know it's just something. It's just like anything. It's a technique. It's something you learn. And I've been looking longingly at Star Wars Legion, just going,
I have a feeling he could teach you if you're willing to learn.
Yeah. And but the problem with Legion is that you got to paint the stuff. So.
Yeah.
Oop, that's the one.
Oh.
Focus! Focus!
Yeah.
That's not focus. Yeah, this is my only fully painted Grey Knight. I haven't got the base yet. If only the camera would actually fucking focus on him, you son of a bitch. You're an auto-focusing camera! Hang on, I wonder if I can...
It all focuses on you, not the bottle. But yeah.
But this is my little Grey Knight. The only one I've got fully painted so far.
Say hello to my little friend.
Yes. I have one guardsman left that I kept painted for when I sold my army, and he's somewhere around here as well. And the reason I kept him is he's actually a limited edition model that I've had painted in my unit's colours ever since I got him.
I mean, it's one of the things I'd love to kind of learn how to paint, because then I would potentially maybe dive into Legion, although that potentially would be a very damaging prospect for my wallet.
Yeah. And obviously the whole wallet damage thing is a definite issue when it comes to this style of tabletop wargaming, where there are vast armies. In fact, there's a specific type of game for Warhammer 40k which gives you control of entire massive armies for people who have way too much money, and and it's just a case of I was like, okay, what else can we play that is less expensive than this? And then they're like, oh yeah, we've got War Machine over there, and it was just like, okay, what do I need to play? One box, £35 thereabouts, starter box, has your main character and then a couple of the little things. You can fight on 0 points.
Nice.
I literally was about to say, when you said, like, I need to find a game that's a lot more cheaper, my response is X-Wing.
X-Wing.
Wait, what?
The thing is, space games always, confuse my brain a lot. That's why I never got into Battlefleet Gothic, even though that's a 40k one.
Well, I think it's when you think about X-Wing, it's less, because it's not about, it's basically a 2D space game that takes place on a map, but it's made to look 3D. Not on your budget bag. Okay, I buy all factions. I get it, Doctor. Armada's far worse. Okay, yes, I've got a Super Star Destroyer. I've got a Super Star Destroyer. Still in this box. Dude's not used it once. I will use it one day. I will use it.
But yeah,
Boy getting called out. Boy getting called out on his own podcast.
Long story short, I kind of gave up on a lot of the classic tabletop, 40k.
They're long games.
All that stuff. They're long game. One, I didn't like the idea of spending an entire Sunday traveling to my local games club, setting up to have one game, then packing it all up again and going home.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
Way too much on this
for Warhammer. For my limited knowledge of Warhammer, there's so much time you've got to invest. You've got to buy the models, you've got to assemble them, you've got to paint them, because you do have to paint them if you want to use them, theoretically speaking. And then you then got to actually build the army list, take the army, set out the army, deploy the army, and then right now we fight. And then
which is why I am part of a increasing number of Warhammer fans who are just like, We need a version of the game that we can play with less stuff.
Mm.
Let us
Yeah, but-
have smaller
yeah.
units. There was even a small subset of rules for Warhammer Fantasy. Well, Warhammer 40k. Sorry, Fantasy's the other thing. Warhammer 40k called Kill Team.
Kill Team.
Where you had one squad.
Mm.
That was it.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
It
also
was
for
brilliant.
also for people who love this kind of games, but they don't have the time, the
Yeah.
place, the possibilities. Thank God for game adjacent application that we're gonna talk about a bit later, probably.
I mean, as Daughter said, I really like my Epic X-Wing and they've actually done great strides to speed that up as a game, which is great. Which, yeah, if anyone wants to fight, there's my X-Wing stuff there, right here. At least that is some of it. That is
All of it.
not all of it. It's some of it. It's my Empire trays, my Scum trays, and my CIS trays. So yeah.
Yeah, so long story short, I then went, right, this is too expensive. Traveling to the, I can keep in touch with all the people at the club just over the internet the way I'm comfortable, but I'm not going to bother going there every weekend anymore. And sold off most of my armies, still got a few left, and then went, I'm just going to read the books. I like the story, I like the setting, so I'm just going to read the books and have fun with that. And then it's just like, okay, I have Cards Against Humanity, I have a couple of party games, and I have this game that I got for Christmas that I still haven't fucking played yet.
Oh,
I really actually, one thing I find very interesting is just because miniature wargaming is a very niche aspect of tabletop games. It's surprising when you actually hear that there are some celebrities that are into it. Like
it's a very high barrier to entry.
Very high barrier to entry.
This is the God Emperor of Mankind, Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, he's into his Warhammer. When he God bless him soul, God rest his soul. Robin Williams was very big into his Warhammer. He loved all that stuff. And going further back into the old day with actual army soldiers and such. Peter Cushing was really into his army men and soldiers. But there's a very sweet video which looks like it was filmed in the 70s by some god awful camera of Peter Cushing like painting his red coated British army soldiers and setting them out and having like a rule book on his lap, and it's like it looks
so sweet.
proper granddad style.
in his pink slippers, I hope.
That's the thing.
Historic war games are still as popular as ever. You can still buy scale models of World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, Cold War.
Well, that's how it all started. The whole fantasy element is birthed from the fact of taking something, but as long as we've had it, people have had, and the thing is, they've gone from being military like exercises to be like just a little pastime that people do. Moving on, Shadow, what's your history regarding tabletop gaming?
Not much actually. Like yourself, when I was younger, we'd occasionally play like Snakes and Ladders, maybe like Monopoly. I think we did Ludo a couple of times, and I think that might have given us some family trauma just in the back. I can't I have vague like misty memories of Ludo being an absolute fucking asshole of a game.
Ludo was a traumatic experience.
Yeah, but I really never got into these. I never really got into it until university when I signed because I got into video games and I just stayed there for years upon years, and then it was only university when it was like the only place you're going to find people to play video games with is at the gaming society, and in order to do that you're going to have to accept that there are board games here, girly. And I was just like, okay, sure. And that's how I got introduced to a lot of board games, was basically just like, hey, we need a player for such and such, do you want to join in? I'm like, all right, okay, sure.
But don't you guys find that there is this kind of association with board games, like in the mental image of what people have and the general public have, and most people have? They think about Snakes and Ladders, think Monopoly, those very simple, not even skill-based, very, very luck-heavy games.
I feel like that's something that's being slowly becoming a thing of
eroded,
the past.
yes.
Slowly eroded, yeah. Thankfully, because the board gaming industry, even as back as the 90s, moved on from that. It's just that there was this perception that those were like the big ones.
Yeah, the people's perception is actually it's very similar, very tangential for both games and for video games. 'Cause quite recently, the perception of board games was like snakes and ladders or shoots and ladders, depending on where you're from, or Ludo. My parents still are asking, like, whenever I'm telling them, yes.
I just remembered one of my armies is not over there; it's under my desk.
Oh.
Wrong camera.
Oh,
nice.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
This is my War Machine army, Kador, which are basically the steampunk Russians.
Fair enough. Yeah. It wasn't until university I ever really got into tabletop games, and even then that was kind of my first introduction with them. It's also my first introduction to the Star Wars RPG, like the first TTRPG I've ever sort of engaged with, and tried to DM at one point. That did not go well. Thankfully, one of my players took pity on me and was like, "Hey, I was thinking of DMing a campaign." I was like, "Sure, I'm with you." We played a couple of sessions on Roll20 over Google Plus, I think something to do with Google, but
yeah,
you can't
because
really see it, but that's a war doggo.
Doggy.
Oh, doggo. Yes.
Yeah. Funny enough, that's actually a very interesting thought. Role-playing games are very much a niche within the tabletop industry itself as well. And it's the point where no one's really accidentally played them when they were younger. You've really had to be like a hard introduction to them. Like someone's had to introduce you to them. But then I've never found someone who was introduced to it and then was like, it wasn't my thing. Maybe
I guess it depends on your first session. Really.
Yeah, it really does depend on your first session. For example, I never had played in an RPG at all. Never played an RPG, never ran an RPG. And then I found out that the Star Wars FFG RPG existed, and I was like, I want to play this. Found out there was no fucker running it in my city. So I guess I'm gonna have to run it then. Next thing you know,
that was what happened to me. My first ever session of that game was me DMing.
Yeah, and next thing you know, I was running the games down for the store owners down at Athena. Because I just put an advert for there. I turned up, and it's like the three people who ran the store suddenly just all moved from behind the counter to around the table. I'm like, what's going on? I say, we're three of your players.
Is this an intervention?
Okay. So there was pressure.
And he's been a forever DM ever since.
They were like hungry dogs looking for food, like, has games?
Pretty much. And I'll go far back and say that was not a strong. Like, even I will go back and say that my opening days of DM, they weren't terrible, but they weren't great or inspired. Even going back as my most recent campaigns, I could be doing better. That's what this whole new thing starting out with. This is a brand new kind of start for me.
So what were you going to say, Burr, before I continue?
I just want to say, kind of means I should have DM'd when I was younger, because I was reading a lot of co-books.
No, you shouldn't. No, take it from me, and probably from Ebak as well. Never, ever have your first session be you DMing, if you can help it. It's not a great. I personally think it's not a great start, but then again, I wasn't fully developed at that point, so
yeah. I mean, I thought it was all right. I started with a beginner game, and that helped. It was nice the fact that it's the beginner game for the that system is actually really good, and the fact it's like, okay, DM, here's what you got to do, here's what we recommend, and so on and so forth.
I didn't start with the beginner game.
That's the problem.
That would be why. Yeah, that's why it was shit, and that's why one of my players took pity on me. But yeah, so I came out of board games for quite a while. I just stayed. My only exposure to them was at the gaming club, and then as soon as I left university, it just disappeared. I think the only tabletop game, the only tabletop games I really played were Past the Pigs, which is an old game which involves like little plasticine pigs and a scorecard and zombie dice. Those were the only two things
Zombie
that I played.
dice.
They were the only two things that my parents actually liked playing, and we would have them sort of stuffed. My mum would have them stuffed into a handbag, and we just pulled them out if we were waiting for something. But it was only when I started going to this convention called CoxCon, and it's not about the ding dongs, honestly. It's about Jesse Cox.
That's COX, not the other one.
Yes,
Not
and
not
I started.
COGS.
Yeah, I started going to those, and of course, people had tabletop games running, and of course, I would just be like, "Hey." I'm still like super shy, so I don't like
What's
sort of going,
going on
"Hey,
here?
have you got a space for me?" But people were really kind, and I sat in on a few, and I played like Secret Hitler with Laura and with Laura Petal and such like, and it was the beginning, and then I met a guy. You might know this guy. He's very big, very tall, big heart, very loud. Goes by Weird FTW.
Oh, I've heard of
Met
him.
him.
He's an asshole.
Yeah.
No, we love
No,
him.
he's not.
Yeah,
We
I
all
met
love
him.
that
He's a
guy.
sweetheart.
Yeah, met him at CoxCon 2019 and played a couple of games with him. I think it was auctions,
Auctions, yes.
and I apparently played with Burr, and I don't remember. I must have played it with him, but I can't remember. But
You must have repressed that memory.
oh no. But to make a long story much shorter, it was only when I joined into weird sort of like tabletop simulator games and found my way in with this lovely lot that I've actually really started developing on like actually having more board games. So I'm relatively new to the space, and I enjoy I enjoy it, and also starting to more dip my toes into the TTRPG sort of areas. I'm hoping to go looking for books at UK Games Expo.
I'm
Hey,
going to try
Drifting!
something.
Okay.
What's that?
Right.
Oh, oof.
This
hello.
camera. Right. Will you focus on this, please, camera? No.
I don't wanna.
Is that
Focus on my hand.
Poke
my
poke
hand.
the. Oh, it's starting to focus. Started to focus.
Camera
Nope.
angle change.
Poke, no. Poke the camera with a stick. Like, do something.
Oh well, that didn't work. But so we have unpainted Grey Knight miniature, undercoated Grey Knight miniature, because it helps if you finish them, get them primed in one coat, and then virtually finished Grey Knight miniature.
Oh, lovely.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So yeah, those are the processes of painting the model. The part I actually prefer of the whole tabletop model building gaming is the building of the model. Because the beautiful thing about Warhammer models specifically is the choice you get in how you build them. Yeah,
because even my very limited experience, they come on sprues, but you have like options for different heads, different hands, different weapons, and such.
Different heads, different hands. You can, the arm is generally just on a flat surface that you can have it basically any way you want, and they've got different types of arms. One of my favorite models I've seen modeled was a normal, everyday Space Marine in Warhammer 40k with a plasma gun. The plasma gun is a very powerful weapon, but it's also prone to overheating. So you can actually kill yourself with it. This is a rule in the game. If you roll a 1 to hit, you can kill yourself. You need to make an armor save. But because of that, they've got this. They've basically got the full arm extended, usually for pistols. They've got the full arm extended. They've got the plasma gun at the end of the extended arm. This big, bulky plasma gun. And he's got a rocket launcher arm, which is like this. For holding the rocket launcher. And he's got the plasma gun like that, and the rocket launcher hand like that.
No, take it away from me.
That's great.
It's like that Drake meme.
The options available are one of the purest aspects of this game, and I love it.
Also, I like Drifting's comment. I'm waiting for some ice cream to soften a bit so I can scoop it into a bowl. Right now, I can probably use it as a blunt instrument.
Yeah.
Drifting. If you get a bowl, put some boil some water and put it in the bowl and leave it till
Heat up
it's
the
not
bowl.
like then just dip the spoon in it, just hold it for a couple of seconds, wipe it off, and then scoop. The heat will just be enough to soften the ice cream for scooping.
Yeah. That's what the professionals do at ice cream parlors.
Or if you're impatient like me.
I mean,
if you're impatient like me, you heat up the spoon at the gas cooker.
Just because you'll burn your hand.
Yeah. You do, because it heats up very quickly.
One of the reasons I enjoy playing X-Wing is because I get the miniature game experience without needing to actually build any models, and you get like fantastic models like this one of the Ghost here. Like it all comes pre-painted and everything.
You can paint over them if you wish.
What was that?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh wow.
And
steampunk robot thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also, because games, when you've played like a lot of the earlier games in your lifetime, like Snakes and Ladders and things, you realize that they are very simplistic. But when you actually play a proper board game, you realize how important it is to have that element of a little bit of skill, a little bit of luck, and not like all into one direction.
People.
Yeah, I really like games with traitor mechanics, where there's a bit of trust. You've got to put your trust on other people, but you're not sure if you should trust them. Like the battle, like
oh boy, I'm gonna have a lot of trust issues.
like the Battlestar Galactica game, where one of you could be a Cylon, or Dead of Winter, where one of you could be the traitor and have a mechanic which is basically to be the last survivor. Things like that. I also enjoy very fast.
Or Sheriff of Nottingham, when everyone
gets to be the sheriff.
Lied everyone.
Yeah, that's quite a fun game. I am leaning towards bringing Sheriff of Nottingham, just because that would be hella fun. I also like very short games, like Betrayal of the House on the Hill. Great example there, Doctor. Flux is quite a quick game I really like playing. The draw one, play one. Those are the rules. Oh no, the rules have changed. Draw two, play one. Very great game, and especially the variations of Flux games out there is crazy. Plus, I love the fact you can combine the Flux games. If you want, you get like a mega game of Flux, combining all the different versions. Mike,
Does
anyone have a King Arthur? I've got Captain Kirk. you know.
If you want to have Star Trek versus Star Wars Flux, you can have it.
Unfortunately, there's no Star Wars Flux. There's Star Flux, and there's Star Trek Flux, but there's no Star Wars Flux yet. I have been meaning to pick up a Doctor Who Flux pack, but
dear Disney, why don't you give a Flux?
Although I will say, stick Star Wars on the title on a board game, and more often than not, I'll buy it unless it's something like Star Wars Monopoly or Star Wars Risk or anything like that.
Outer Rim is real fun.
Outer Rim is really fun.
Yes.
And it's why I'm hoping the expansion's available at UK Games Expo, because if it is, I'll be buying it at UK Games Expo.
I hope so too. I will say I have a really soft spot for the D&D what was it? Paper scissors wizard or something like that. Rock paper wizard. That was it. Rock paper wizard. Where basically you've killed a dragon, you've got the hoard of gold, but you are adventurers and you have disagreements about how you're going to split the gold. So you use spells to so you have to try and fight each other to get it, and it's positioning where you're trying to move as close to the gold as you can to get the most, but there's also a monster wandering around in the cave, and you have to sort of move around the monster or move people into the monster or away from the monster. And the best thing is you're casting spells from like a deck that's been placed in front of you, and in order to do it you go rock paper wizard, and then you make the hand gesture for whatever spell you're casting at the person that you're casting it on. And if the same people are casting the same spell at each other, like me and Weird did when we did dominate person at each other, you get wild magic that happens, and you have to roll again. You have to choose you have to choose which spells it actually turns into. It's really fun, and I didn't win because of course James won because he's sneaky like that. But I just love that little extra bit of chaos that gets thrown in.
I like that.
Have you all ever gone into a case that you've not been into for like over a couple of years and then realized, oh, I probably should have gotten rid of this by now?
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Oh.
This was a little portable battery that I had kept in my gaming case for reasons, and now, as you can probably tell, it's a bit singed on the edges.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I'm going to be getting rid of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about specific games that we actually really enjoy, given that Shadows kind of kicked us off there.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed the Eldritch Horror that we played on Tabletop Simulator.
We need to play a full game of that at some point.
Yeah, I would really love to play that game and finish it. And I do also, and on the same sort of note, actually, I remember playing a game, I think it was an Arkham Horror game. It was a Call of Cthulhu Arkham Horror where you were different characters and you were running around this board, and occasionally you'd go into like the other realms and you had to get through the other realms and you were collecting these elder signs and had to you had to shut down portals. That was a really cool game because I remember what we were in a really shitty situation and I just fucking and my character was just like, all right, I better do something. So I just fucking ran through a portal, managed to 1v1 my way through.
I love games like that where it's cooperative and it's you as a team against the game.
Yes, I really love that. As much as it's fun to sort of like stab people in the back occasionally, I'm a bit like I'll out myself here. I'm a big softie. I can't do that to people. And I just want to do my own thing in the corner and not really do anything. So cooperative games are my jam, kind of thing.
That's what's, speaking of cooperative, semi-cooperative. One game that I would love to be able to play with you guys, if we ever get the opportunity, Atmosphere.
Oh.
Have you guys ever heard?
I've heard of Atmosphere. Yeah.
It's a board game where 4 players, where you run a video cassette.
An actual VHS.
Yeah, actual VHS. They did a DVD version as well, but it wasn't as good. But an actual VHS tape, and it had a countdown timer. You had a limited amount of time to play the game. The countdown timer was always going. Periodically,
my mate Andy has a copy of Atmosphere, and he's always said he's wanted to go to UK Games Expo. If we could find a way to get like a TV and a VHS cassette thing, we could do that.
If you guys can do that, do it, because it's a brilliant game. Because occasionally, while the videotape is ticking down the time, the character of that particular version of the game, the first game, was the Crypt Keeper, would pop up. And depending on where you are at the game at the time, because you're all actively playing, you're all rolling dice and changing turns and all that, he will make you do things. Like, whoever's turn it is now, do this thing. And he will give you penalties and do things.
Oh,
so
wow.
the second game was Baron Samedi, the zombie. And everything.
You see, the thing is, that'd be fantastic. That would be a great app game to do these days.
Yes.
I remember that one specifically because he would always turn up with the top and be like, "Hey, thrill me!" And the penalty was you had to stand bolt upright and say, "Yeah, Baron, I can dig it." And if you didn't, he'd penalise you. Something would happen if you didn't do it. And then he'd give you all these funny commands, and then he'd go on his way. But the first game, the Crypt Keeper, the crazy thing about the game was, every time you saw the character, they changed slightly. They got a little bit more sinister each time. No. So the Crypt Keeper was just this dude in the hood. You couldn't see his face. And then the second time, he's in the hood and he's got a couple more wrinkles. And by the time at the end of the game, he's got skin dripping off him. And
it's horror. Atmosphere. Yeah,
it's F-E-A-R. Yeah. And the fourth game that came, I think it was the fourth, was The Witch. And even when we were working together, we never beat it. That game was hard.
That That reminds me of Betrayal at House on the Hill. 50 different scenarios that can happen in that game.
I mean, they're on cassette. The things that happen are the same every time, but it depends on how you've played the game, where you are on the board, what your positioning is, whose turn it is. All variables mean it'll be different every time you play it.
Yeah.
You were gonna say, Shadow?
Yeah, there was a game that we played at UK Games Expo where somebody was the monster, and we were a group of people trying to explore like a haunted house. And as we move, like
Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yes, so I played that. That was really fun.
Well, no, because you all start off as not as explorers, but one of you then becomes the traitor, and the traitor is different each time.
Yeah, and the house is built as you explore through it. And you've got these things. Yeah. So I played that. Yeah.
Great game.
Yeah, it was really fun. We managed to 1v1 that fucking monster. That was fun. If it was not
I've never won a scenario in Betrayal at the House.
No, we managed to do it at UK Games Expo. Divot was the traitor, but we managed to beat him, so that was good.
Pandemic's also a great kind of cooperative game where you're working together. Although made by the same developer, the one I actually like, which is a variation of it, is the Thunderbirds board game, where you play is based on the actual British TV series Thunderbirds, where you are trying to solve disasters throughout the world as trying to follow the Hood's plan, and all your characters have unique abilities and different things that they can do, and very interesting. And also, there's a Hood expansion which adds a 5th player who plays as the Hood, working against the other team. Very interesting stuff that you can do with that. But moving on, Burr, you got any kind of games that you really enjoy?
Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you about Mansion of Madness. That is very much in what you were saying. Like, it would be cool if there was like an app for a game like Atmosphere. This might be a game very much for you. This is a sort of Cthulhu Lovecraftian mythos game, and it comprises of the boards that make rooms, of the figures that make monsters and people, and you have an app on your phone or on your tablet for it. So this is a co-op game. You have multiple scenarios, and the app will be telling you. It will be your DM. It will be telling you what to do in the scenario. It'll tell you start in this particular room. You specify what kind of players you have, how many, and you explore the location. Various situations are happening in the scenario. You're given, for example, information that some professor, for example, is missing in unknown circumstances. You have to see what's happening in his mansion. You walk around the mansion, and it's a dungeon crawler. You open a door hitherto undiscovered, and the game will tell you what is behind that door. And it says you'll see a corridor covered in darkness. Add tile 1B to the door that you've just opened, and you are opening a new element of the map. So once in a while, it will also spawn a random event, like all the lights turn off in the location you are, or suddenly a monster appears, or suddenly you're hallucinating a vertigo and you have to like test your strength against the hallucination, or test your fear against the monster so that you don't panic. You fight those monsters. You try to find objects. It's very much an adventure game. You find objects. You discover the secret behind the story, behind the scenario, and the app tells you all the parts that you're doing, and you're just moving them on the board. You inform the application about what you've done, what each player has done. So it's a really, really great co-op game. It works very well on your imagination because you have a very atmospheric music in the background from the app, and you'll be given all kinds of really cool flavor text for what you find, what you see when you discover things, when you fight particular monsters.
It's amazing how much like your experience of the game can just make you buy into it. That sounds amazing in terms of that. Mansions of Madness, if
Mansions of Madness, yes.
yeah, I've heard about that. It's again part of the Arkham series of games. And actually, you talking about how much you enjoyed Eldritch Horror, Shadows, actually made me think maybe I should bring Eldritch Horror with me. But then again, go on.
I think the only reason I advised against it because I don't know where we're going to be able to set up and how long we're going to have there because I remember it took a while to set up even on Tabletop Simulator, and for us to set up in real life that might take a bit.
True, but thing is, what we should do then in that case is at some point get together and just play Eldritch Horror on Tabletop Simulator one day.
I would 100% be down with that.
Absolutely.
Never won a game of that, so.
No.
I
really enjoyed the game that we played of it.
Yes, so I'm glad you say that because I didn't like I didn't know how people felt about it, but the fact you said you've called it out like you really enjoyed that, that's good. One game which stand out to me, which a game I played 2 demos of one evening, and like I must buy this game, and that was Captain Sonar.
Oh, is that the one where it's like battleships, but
yes. So it's an 8-person it's an 8-person game, and one person plays the captain, one person plays the navigator, one person plays the engineer, and the other person plays the radio operator. And what happens is it's turn-based. The captain says, "Okay, we're going north," and basically the captain bridges the direction. At that point, the armorer then says, "Okay, well, I'm now going to arm one of our weapon systems, so color in a block of that." And the engine's like, "Okay, well, to move north, we have to turn off one of these items. But if I turn off a certain amount of items, I can basically then re-engage them." So, and then the radio operator is listening to the other captain, trying to track down, and it's got like this film where they can move the route over, so they can like try and so the radio operator's like, "I think they might be an E4, Captain," you know.
Oh my goodness.
And things like that, and it's really interesting, and it's really fascinating to play it turn-based. But do you know what's really fascinating? They have a real-time mode.
Oh no!
Where literally you play as fast as you can keep up. And that is
not my first time.
Not first time. Not the first time, but doing it is amazing because
I thought it only had real time mode.
No, it has both.
What I thought.
No, they're turn-based. They have a turn-based mode because real time mode is a bit too much. But yeah, turn-based mode is way too easy because it's very easy for the radio operator to listen to the captain and like get the directions. But when it's real time, the radio operator is like trying to listen to the enemy captain. Like, "Captain, I think they might be here." While the engineers, the captain's saying, "We're going south," and the engineer's reading and saying, "If we go south further, Captain, we'll cause a core breach." You know, things like that. Then it's organized chaos at its finest, Captain Sonar. And when you want to like clear your route and clear your stuff, you can surface. It signals what zone you're in to the enemy captain, so they can better hone in where that you are. However, what you then do is you have this outline of the ship, and every member of the crew has to draw a line around within the lines of the ship, basically making the outline of each section. You pass it along to the next person, and then you show the enemy captain. The enemy captain says, "Yep, that checks out." At that point, you're then clear. You can wipe it, and you then dive. It's chaos at its finest, and that's why I'm bringing it, because it's fucking amazing.
Start us off turn-based.
Yes,
and then we can go.
Then we can progress.
It's a great game. I love it. Captain Sonar, fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple game. It's 8 whiteboards, double-sided whiteboards with a clear whiteboard and 8 pens. That's all it is in the box.
Oh my goodness.
It's so simple. But you have like different maps and different things. Well, I guess you got the ones for maps, but whatever. But yeah.
That kind of reminds me of guerrilla marketing that Weird brought along last year. That was so fucking fun. That was amazing. And really, really silly.
Well, Lemming, do you have any kind of games that you recall very well and you really, really like enjoying playing?
When it comes to board games...
Well, I'm not saying board games. It's just like, in general, tabletop games.
Oh, yeah, tabletop. Obviously, Warhammer, the Warhammer 40k universe is near and dear to my heart, even though I don't play it anymore, because setting up games is a real pain. So I just say that the actual lore, the stories, I have hundreds of their books. I've got a bunch over there. And I've got some down here. In fact, I have go over there. One series of books within the Warhammer lore I would recommend: the Caiaphas K novels. Even if you're not in a 40k, I'd recommend these. They're basically Blackadder in space.
Oh, brilliant.
He is a commissar, a member of the Imperial Guard who can shoot you on sight if you look cowardly.
Well
He's an
then.
abject coward. He's
Okay.
also a hero of the Imperium, because every time he tries to run away, something miraculous happens and he wins.
I love it.
And he's got massive imposter syndrome as a result.
I'm trying to think, what other game?
They're brilliant. But on top of that, a board game that I've been wanting to get people to play the digital version of, just because I like simple, quick board games that I can play with friends. I've gone into the habit of not really liking overly complicated rule sets.
Mm-hmm.
I can play them, that's fine, if everybody wants to play them, but I also like to play the game of life.
Oh?
Never heard of
It's
it.
a simple board game with a little spinny thing in the middle of the board that goes up to 10, and you spin it, go that many places, and then stuff happens.
Fair.
It's all
fair.
about going from start of life. Do you go to college or do you go straight to work? Choose different paths.
I have heard of it, yeah.
You get married. You get a partner of your choice. You have kids.
I think I might have an existential crisis if I play this game, though.
Maybe. There's
Yeah.
also an extra version of the game which I played with a friend, which is basically just go on holidays, have fun.
I think the game of life is more a US thing, because I've never heard of it in the UK kind of
Yeah, a
thing.
friend of mine has a copy and we played it a while ago, and it's a lot of fun. It's also on Steam.
Trying to think of very unusual games. I've played Gloom is a very unusual game that I've played because they're transparent cards.
Ah.
Hold on, I think I can very easily get it out. Give me a second.
I mean, one game I also like to pull out once a year, just for fun, depending on the group I'm with, when I know their sense of humor, is I like to pull out Cards Against Humanity.
Oh yeah.
As a daybreaker.
I kind of dislike those kind of games because
they're very dependent on the company you keep, kind
exactly,
of thing. You have to know people. I do like Red Flags though, but again, it has to be with people you know and trust, kind of thing. Because I remember
I've been trying to get copies of I wanted to find a copy of Red Flags. I want to find a copy of basically all of the board games that they played at CoxCon.
On the other hand,
I can't.
Sorry.
Weird managed. Sorry, Burr. I'll just say, Weird managed to find an original copy of Red Flags, which is really, really rare now on UK Games Expo. So maybe we might be able to find some. But what were we going to say, Burr?
Yeah, Oh, it looks very nice. Ooh. It really looks nice. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. They're transparent cards, and the reason they're transparent is because cards effects from beneath shine through, and the idea of Gloom. The idea of Gloom is you've got to make your family as depressed as possible, then kill them off. That's why it's called Gloom. And it's
sounds cool.
And it's got a lot of weird alliteration. For example, one of the cards I've got here is was bothered by banshees, or maybe they were condemned by the court, things like that, but of course you're trying to make the opponents people as happy as possible because they can't die if they're happy. Yeah. So
what? It's crazy.
It's one of those depressing games where it's kind of like a Schadenfreude game.
Yeah. No, I must admit, it's not a board game, but I do like Pass the Pigs because it's quite I think only my family seems to know of this game, but it's really fun. You've got two little plastic pigs, and they've got one side's got a dot on them, and basically they're in a certain position, and what you do you just roll them on the table and see what positions they get into, and there are some positions that are harder for the pigs to land in than others, and you get more points depending on the position that the pigs land in. I think there's a position where they can land on their face, and that's but that's got a lower point score than if they land on their ear or something like that. But you lose all the points that you get if they're touching, because if they're touching, they're making bacon, and all the points are wiped from your board. Kind of
Is that a
thing.
euphemism?
Might be, but yeah, it's a really stupid game, and I think I feel like I'm the only person who knows about it at the moment. But
I know about it. It's just I've never played it.
yeah,
I've never heard of that
fun,
game,
but
though.
it requires a pencil, somebody to keep scores and stuff like that.
Well,
You don't really want to have to constantly keep a little notepad on you just for.
one thing I will say, there's a game which I think you would appreciate, Shadow, which is called Boss Monster.
It's you and Weird have both been sort of.
Yeah, because basically it's like Dungeon Keeper, where you're like the boss of a dungeon, and you have to basically build a dungeon to stop adventurers from reaching you. But I like it because a lot of the monsters that you can play as are basically video game ripoffs or pop culture ripoffs. And
I have seen so many boss monster like boxes all over the place, so maybe this is my time.
It's very popular.
it is a popular game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember?
Maybe.
I do remember. Like, I know this isn't really a board game, but Werewolf.
Oh, but that counts.
Oh, that's a card game.
Yeah.
That counts.
I can't remember the game, the type of werewolf that we played in UK Games Expo, or we might not have even played it because we were waiting for it to set up and then it never did. But Werewolf's always a really fun game, especially because just all the backstabbing that fucking happens. And
The only issue I have with Werewolves is it's a game I struggle to play. It requires verbal cues.
yeah.
Not so easy when you're half deaf. Leads to kind of problems arising at times.
I can imagine.
But apart from that, it is what it is. No, I really enjoy a lot of board games out there, and again, Star Wars Outer Rim, great game. Rebellion's a great game as well.
Rebellion
nice, an asymmetrical real time strategy game, technically speaking. Yeah. Anyone else got any other board games to kind of share? Or?
Well, I do have one that I really love, and that when we had to try that, he said that the game was too mental for him. It's called Root. It has the most adorable, beautiful meeples you can have. Really cute kitties and birds.
It's so cute when it's murdering
mice. Yeah, but they are all
like Watership Down.
Yeah, they are all incredibly murderous.
It sounds like kittens in a blender to me.
It's an area control game, so you want to take control of as many objects in the forest as you can, because you gain points for them. But the most interesting part of this game is every character, every faction plays completely differently in this game. Where you will have a cat that just plays in the standard RTS game, where you build lumber mills to give you wood. You build workshops to give you extra cards. You build barracks to give you extra soldiers, and you pay money for those. You can have a vagabond, which is a raccoon, and that's just one character, and it plays like an RPG. You explore mines. You take objects from the mines. You can use those objects to help players. You can craft cards for them. You can do missions for them. So you can have a faction that has just one character. You have another faction that is just merchants. They are selling their warriors for cards as mercenaries, or they can sell their services because there's a river across the map that you can cross, but you can swim across you can sail along the river with the boats that you rent from those merchants. So there's a lot of options. You have to kind of learn every faction separately, because it's like very asymmetrical, because every faction is a completely different game, but it's incredible fun.
One game that's always
sounds neato.
One game that I quite like, that I played once, really liked it, but never picked it up myself, is Mysterium. Anyone ever played that?
No.
It's
rings a distant bell.
It's a murder mystery game. but it's an asymmetrical one. One person plays the ghost of the person who was murdered. And the rest of you play mediums. And the idea is that the ghost has to basically give enough information to the label to basically declare who the murderer is. But the ghost can't actually speak to you.
Oh.
So the ghost has to communicate in different ways to you. So like
the variant of that game. So it looks like you're putting pegs on like type of answer you're given. And
yeah, or like presenting cards that are very abstract. And because you're a medium, so you're getting like...
I'd love to play that.
Well, like I said, it's on my list for UK Games Expo. So if I see a copy, I'll either be buying it or I'll be grabbing it out of the library for us to try it.
Yeah. There is when you said about the pictures to analyze, I remembered about a game that is also real fun, but it's maybe not for everyone. It can be a bit how to say, hold on. I lost the word now.
Subjective?
Well, no. I mean, you might not feel very, very strong or like very confident playing that game at first, but then when you get better and better, you love it more and more. It's called Dixit.
Dixit, yeah. I thought you were going to talk about Dixit. Yeah.
Yes.
It basically is about about you need to you basically select an image. You basically give it. You give information about the image so that hopefully it will mislead people into not picking the image. And what you got to do is basically, if no one picks your image, you fail. But if only one person picks it, then you get a lot of points. But if everyone picks it, it's too obvious, and so therefore you don't get any points. So you got to give just enough information. I see what you mean, Bert.
Yeah, you have 6 pictures laid down on the board, on the table, and you, in your mind, you choose one, and then you give the hint. Like, it could be one word, it could be several words, it could be anything. You could sing something, you could say something, you could show something, whatever. It's just, you want some people to figure out which picture you're talking about, and some people
Codenames similar.
Yeah.
Codenames is similar to that, and I think I played that. That's really fun, where you have to guess the word, but not everybody can guess the same word because otherwise they lose points, kind of thing. That was always really fun. And I remember some of us looking at each other just like, no, you better not have the same word as I have. I swear to
God. I think for the way I think about it, I'm probably going to be bringing quite a few board games with me this year, more than I anticipated. I would love to play Dead of Winter. I love playing Dead of Winter. I love the idea, especially because what's great about that is, yes, there can be a defector and there can be a traitor, but also there might not be.
So it's like Project Winter, but in board game form.
Basically, it is Project Winter, but in board game form.
I mean, Project Winter is Dead of Winter, just made more into social deduction than survival, and put into a PC game, a video game format.
Yeah, and there are aspects to it. It's really interesting. I definitely know I'm going to bring out a Rim because we had such a great time playing that, and we'll definitely play that.
I can't wait to send you running across the galaxy again.
It's fine. It's fine. I'll buy the expansion. I can quickly make my way back the other way.
You sold your best friend out for 1,000 credits.
1,000 credits, and I don't look back.
You were just so scared of me.
Dead of Winter, and of course, and I'm probably going to bring Sheriff of Nottingham, which I didn't realize it. They've released a second edition of that game, which is barely any difference. However, it means I probably want to pick up the expansion to that, which is Merry Men, at some point if I can find it. So yeah,
we're gonna lose you. We're gonna lose you between the shelves, my friend.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's board games which I've always wanted, never really had the time to pick up because I don't really get to play them a lot these days. Whereas you can games that spends more time to be like, I get to play these with my friends.
Yes. I must admit, like, for all the bad shit that the COVID pandemic has brought upon us, it has brought a huge wave of games like going online and tabletop simulator,
Yes.
and I'm forever grateful for that in a way.
Mhm.
Is there anything else anyone wants to add on top of all this?
Well, I just wanted to add that there is a really lot of very good translation of board games into video game formats. Like not just using tabletop simulator to emulate the game, but writing the game so that it works well as a game, as a video game. Asmodee company especially publishes a lot of that. Scythe and Carcassonne and Wingspan and all kinds of really cool
They're at
games.
UK Games Expo this year.
Yes, yes. And also, there's a lot of games that were written as board games directly to video games market, like Armello. That
Yep.
is an amazing, amazing board game.
And
Or
Gremlins Inc.
Yeah, or Gremlins Inc., which we have played many times with
Many
me.
times.
Yep.
Well,
Which is
And
also
another board game that I have permanently installed as the digital version is, of course, Talisman, which
I played
infuriates me to
Talisman
no end.
once, and that bullied me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it infuriates me to. Talisman is the only game that, by pure RNG, I died before I even got a turn.
Yeah. You need RNGs in your life.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I was
played-
playing with a friend many years ago, and he was like, "Okay, roll the dice. Cool. Just for fun, I'm going to attack you." It's like, why? Like, so he attacked
Just
me,
the
and then we
giggles.
did the rolls, and I died. I was like, "You."
you fuckhead.
Keep in mind that
Also-
this is the same guy that when we played a friendly game of StarCraft 2 against each other, he proxy battle cruised me.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's so mean.
Yeah.
Hmm.
His response was, "It's the only trick I know." It's like, if that's the only strategy you know, you should stop fucking playing.
But true though.
Yeah.
I have done a proxy Nidus worm at one point, so I can't really talk.
I mean that's a strat, but at least you didn't do it in a friendly game against somebody.
That is true.
And
No,
not your first friendly game against that person who has openly said, "I'm not very good at online games."
Yeah,
But
I
there you go.
have done Ticket to Ride I have played Ticket to Ride as well, which is a good game, but I'm never playing it against James ever again.
yeah, I've learned about that. Ticket to Ride is a great game. It's a bit too. I don't know. I tend to bounce off Euro kind of games. But yeah.
Understandable. I have also played Catan at least once.
Yes.
Well, you have to.
Yeah. It's kind of like
it
a
is
rite
the
of
law.
passage. You have to turn your sheep into wood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wood into sheep. I don't know. One of the two.
Well, you can turn either into either. It all depends on the version of Catan you want, because there's this, for example, Star Trek Catan, which sounds really cool too.
Yes, Star Catan. Yeah.
I already ever played the original. But no, I'm not playing Catan. Fuck that. I'm
Wouldn't
here to
ask you
actually
to.
play some entertaining games.
Right, well, I think that's a good place for us to end today's episode of the Common Debts podcast. So yes, we'll be at UK Games Expo. Oh god, it's less than 28 hours. It's crazy.
I know.
I hope you all have a super fun, funky time.
Looking
I
forward to
got
it.
I got my email to check in online today, and I was just like, "Fucking Jesus!"
Have you checked in then, Shadow?
Yes.
I'll probably do that as well after this episode then.
Yeah, I told them that I would like show up before noon, but I don't think they're going to be any more ready than they already are. So, oh well. I guess I'll just hang around the hotel and flutter my eyelashes at Burr and be like, "Hey, can I store my stuff in your room for a bit?"
Yeah. And I'm gonna be like, you know what? I brought dinosaurs.
Yes.
Right then, everyone. That's going to be it from us tonight. Next time on the Common Debts podcast, we'll be airing on the 28th of June. So yes, we'll see you all then. We don't know what the topic is going to be. If you have a topic you want in mind, let us know. We'll see about discussing that. We just thought it was appropriate, given what we're doing, discuss board games.
I know what we can discuss. Even though E3 is not going ahead this year,
Yes, there's the Microsoft
Now-
conference, the State of Play conference, and all sorts going
Which
on.
are all happening when we're at UK Games
While we're at
Expo.
UK Games Expo. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Very
Yeah,
useful.
How dare you?
How very dare you.
And between now and then, I will also be going to my local anime convention, SunnyCon,
Oh, how lovely.
Have
on
a
the
great
24th, the 24th to the 26th
Oh my
of
goodness.
June.
Have a wonderful time, Lemming. Take
Yeah.
pictures.
It's my local, and I intend to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take pictures with other cosplayers.
That's
Yes.
the idea.
Well, I want to thank my co-host for joining me for today's episode. I want to thank Shadow, Lemming, and of course Brr for joining me for tonight's show. And we'll see you all next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.